Hello, and welcome to the World Affairs Council Global Security Forum 2020 Battlefronts. Each year, we explore the most critical issues we face as a nation and as a world, and this year is no exception. This year, we're virtual and working with partners all over the country and all over the world. I am so pleased today to be here for this extra special session focused on the National Guard and its new leader, General Daniel Hokanson. We here in Connecticut have enjoyed a great civilian-military partnership with our National Guard for years. We not only partner on the Global Security Forum, but on many events throughout the year, including our Model United Nations for Connecticut high school students. And that's in part due to the great leadership of Major General Fran Evon. The conversation that we're about to have is an important one. At this point in history, during these very hard times, we know that our National Guard around the country have been working hard during the COVID-19 crisis and in disaster relief, and still many are currently deployed all over the world. Yet we're at a time where the civilian-military relationship has experienced some tension. So we're really looking forward to hearing what General Hokanson has to say and hearing his vision for his new role. So by way of formal introduction, General Daniel R. Hokanson serves as the 29th Chief of the National Guard Bureau and is a member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. In this capacity, he serves as a military advisor to the President, Secretary of Defense, National Security Council, and is the Department of Defense's official channel of communication to our governors and our state adjutant generals. He's served in many capacities, including as the Adjutant General of the Oregon National Guard. And I would be remiss during this week when we have so many West Point graduates to not say that he is also a United States Military Academy graduate. And Major General Fran Evon is our Adjutant General here in the state of Connecticut and a great friend to the World Affairs Council. And I'll throw it over to you, General Evon.
General Hokanson, thank you so much, and thanks, Megan. General, thanks so much for taking the time to share some part of your day with us. We know you've got an awfully busy schedule as the Guard continues to play a pivotal role defending the homeland here and abroad in this complex environment that we now know is 2020. So with that, sir, I'd like to offer any opening remarks and throw it back over to you.
Fran, I'd just like to say I really appreciate the opportunity to share this time with you because it's very critical, and 2020 has been a very interesting year, not only for our nation, but for the National Guard, and I look forward to your questions today.
Sounds good. So, sir, this past summer, after your confirmation as the 29th Chief of the National Guard Bureau, what were your top priorities that you set before the National Guard?
So great question, Fran. And I would say it really always falls back to our people because what the National Guard is able to do would not be possible without the men and women who volunteer to serve their country and find that balance between their civilian career, their military career, and also their families. And so when I came in, I knew that that was always going to be an enduring priority because that has been for my entire career. And then also, and due to the mechanics of the short time frame between confirmation and actually my change of responsibility, we did put together a transition team really to look across the 54 states, territories, and the District of Columbia to reach out to soldiers and airmen really at every level, from Joe's to has just entered the organization to a lot of our senior enlisted and officer ranks, as well as our adjutants general. We also reached out to our families and also some of the organizations we work with outside the National Guard and asked them a lot of fundamental questions about the National Guard. And we're just wrapping up all of that data right now. I read through most of it over the weekend. And so from there, once we collate all that, I'll kind of look at that and some thoughts that I have had, and we'll really roll out in about 2 weeks, really our mission, vision, and priorities for the next 4 years, understanding that they could change at any time.
That's great, sir. With that said, what do you see are the most critical challenges before the National Guard as you see it today?
Yeah. So right now, when I look at 2020, and it's really representative of the last 384 years of the National Guard, we're there not only will our primary mission set as the primary combat reserve of the Army and the Air Force. And so the reason that we exist is to fight and win our nation's wars. And because we do that, we get the training, the equipment, the manning, and also the force structure throughout the United States Now, the great thing is because we have that, it then gives us that capability to support our communities in their time of need, whether it be natural disasters, floods, hurricanes, wildfires, as we're seeing out now in the West, but also for events that we may not have planned or even thought about occurring, such as COVID-19, and then also civil disturbance as well.
Do you see this as a pivotal moment in the history of the National Guard to date as what we've experienced in 2020?
I absolutely would see it that, Fran, and that's a great way to put it. So when you look at all the things that we've asked our National Guardsmen and women to do over the past year, it really shows the tremendous value of the National Guard. Because we're a part-time force, our cost is significantly less. And as our nation potentially faces, future reduction in resources, what we've proven basically is we have the capability to still meet our overseas warfare requirements. And even today we have 18,000 soldiers and airmen deployed. But not only can we do that, but we can meet literally everything that our communities had asked us to do as well. And we saw that with COVID-19, civil disturbance, hurricanes, wildfires. In fact, if you go back to early June, we had over 115,000 National Guardsmen mobilized doing various events around the country and also overseas.
Can you describe some of the relief efforts that the nation across the 54, the states and territories have provided to their respective areas as it relates to COVID?
Yeah. So what's really interesting, Fran, is that, and as an adjutant general, you saw this firsthand. And when it first started out, there was a lot of things that we did. We helped with testing sites. But then what we saw in some of our states that they identified long-term care facilities that needed training, they needed PPE, and they needed support. And so states, as we got further along into this, identified areas where the communities needed help. And I'll just take food banks for an example. A lot of the volunteers were sometimes in that high-risk age category or conditions, and so they couldn't do those jobs that they had relied on them to do previously. And so having the National Guard available there to really meet all of these emerging and sometimes unanticipated mission requirements, we were able to help out our communities. And because we're across the 54, what we learned in one state often gave us really indicators of things to look for in other states to try and anticipate or get ahead of those issues and try and support our communities before they became really significant. And even today, so we continue to do testing centers, we do food distribution and cleaning some of the long-term care facilities, and really supporting warehousing operations in terms of PPE until the civilian industries or civilian markets or volunteers can start to fill that, and then we can have our folks just go back to either their civilian employment or back to the National Guard duties.
Absolutely, and I know the response is far from over. I mean, today we're starting in some series of meetings with the Department of Public Health, even on how we could potentially assist with vaccinations as we go forward when that becomes available. So thank you for that response, sir. As Megan mentioned, the theme of the Global Security Forum is Battlefronts 2020 and exploring new and emerging battlefronts. Most people may not know how active the Guard is within the cyber and space realms. Can you describe what you see from your seat and how the National Guard operates in that battle space?
Absolutely, Fran. And this is one of the beauties of the National Guard, is when you look at the skill sets related to cyber and space, what it does is it allows those service members or even civilians with that skill set to also serve their country and really leverage their civilian skill set in their military jobs. And so as we look forward to, obviously, the elections coming up here in November, we have small cyber teams in each of our states, and they're there to primarily, protect and to defend the networks of the National Guard. But when the state needs them, they can actually activate them under state active duty status, and they can help the state address those issues. And if you look at Louisiana and Texas, late last year, they had events where they had, as school was starting, they had ransomware attacks on some of their programs in some of their counties. And the National Guard was able to activate under state active duty by being asked from their governor to help get there and mitigate some of the concerns that they faced. And in many cases, they've saved tens of thousands of IT systems because they were able to get in early and really make a difference. And what we see now as well is it allows those folks that may choose a career in cyber to serve their nation and really bring that skill set to their military duties, which is a great advantage to when they're trying there to help their communities.
That's great. And I forget the actual number of states that are directly involved with space, but do you see that in the future of the Guard as well?
I do, and over time, because if we look at cyber in particular, it's something that literally is going on every single day, and it could potentially have significant impacts not only on our communities, but also, you know, if you look at the power grid and other issues, things that we just need to be prepared for to defend and protect as much as we can. And so in that case, Fran, we don't even know what's going to emerging next. And so you can almost tie that to space as well. We've been in the space realm for over 25 years, providing space support to our nation. And now as we look at the proliferation of space, we don't even know what potential missions they might be able to do to help support their communities in the future.
Absolutely. So we were one of those states where, you know, one of our major cities had a ransomware attack the day before the first day of school. And if you asked me 5 years ago if I thought we'd respond and be part of the response, you know, it's really a vision of the Guard Bureau that we were able to see that through the fruition. So again, sir, we're thrilled to have you present today as part of the Global Security Forum. You know, another thing I think that most of our viewers probably don't understand is the state partnership program and the global impact that this plays. Can you briefly describe what roles you see and what outcomes come from the state partnership program and how that fits into the larger big picture?
Yeah, and for those not familiar with the state partnership program, one of the advantage was as the former Soviet Union broke up, we had a lot of nations that had grown up under the communist system, and as they transferred to democracies, they needed some help with that. And so what we did is at the time, because the National Guard was not as threatening as an active component force, we established relationships starting in 1993 with some of these countries. And over the course of the past 25 years, we were able to help them with their military, with civilian military relations, also disaster response, search and rescue, all those things that the National Guard in the United States does every single day. And so we brought that skill set to these countries. The other thing that we brought was the opportunity for our folks to learn from them and them learn from us. And we established a means of communicating with those nations. And really, we looked at them truly as they're stated, as partnerships. And so we both gained many great things from that. But the long-term advantage is now we have helped develop more partners and allies. In fact, some of those former Soviet bloc nations that were early members of the state partnership program went on to be NATO members and then actually deployed with some of our Guard units into Afghanistan and Iraq. And so that shows over the course of 25 years how great of relationships we can develop. And as we look forward and really at our current national defense strategy, it really stresses the importance of allies and partners. And that's one great advantage we have over many other countries, because we really truly want the best for them and to promote democracy and just freedom throughout the world. And so I think that also helps us facilitate that, but also work with those countries to help develop their capabilities so that they can better respond to issues that their citizens or they may face within their country.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. I know here in Connecticut, we celebrate 20 plus years with the partnership in Uruguay. And I know we're hosting them actually the week after next they've got some new leadership, and we're very excited about the new leadership that's devoting a little bit more effort to the military as well. So, sir, we've seen the National Guard respond to protests for racial injustice around the nation. Can you talk a little bit about the mission of the Guard and their role at the protests?
And so, and Brent, as an Adjutant General, you're very aware of this. And so we see our role as the National Guard is to protect our citizens, not to police them. And so when we look at a lot of the events that occurred, the intent for us was being asked by the governor to help assist and really trying to de-escalate the situation wherever we were. And by putting National Guardsmen out there to interact with our citizens and the community members, to show them, hey, we're here to protect your right to peacefully protest, I think we were able to de-escalate that situation fairly quickly. And if you look at the height, we were at about 43,000 National Guardsmen that were out there supporting their communities. And in a matter of weeks, that was down below 1,000, and we're just around 1,000 even today. And so to us, we see that as a good news story. And then there are cases where even guardsmen would say that in some cases, if they were at an event and even some of the peaceful protesters would identify folks that were there for nefarious reasons, they would bring their attention to the guardsmen, who could then identify them and notify the law enforcement officers that could then address it. And so I think everybody there was for the intent to be peaceful and give them the opportunity to peacefully protest.
Is there anything specific that you'd like the public to know in reference to the Guards' role at these protests?
It really kind of goes back to that first comment, Fran, is, we live in these communities. Our guardsmen, they're part of that. And they absolutely are there to support everybody's constitutional right. But they do want to make sure that it doesn't become violent, or we don't loot or destroy, businesses that could have an impact on that community. And so for us, we're part of that community every single day, and we see the value in it. And so we just appreciate the support. And I would encourage those in the community that would like to look in potentially joining the National Guard, because we're always looking for good talent and people that want to make a difference, not only within their community, but internationally as well.
Absolutely. And that's a great segue, sir. So as you look at recruiting in the future, what do you see are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities for people, young 17 to 24-year-olds or prior service members to join one of their state's home team?
Fran, to me, a lot of time is just getting the word out and looking at a lot of our key influencers in our communities, like just school counselors, principals, to really just make folks aware that it is an option. It's not for everybody, but it is for a lot of folks. And when you look at the educational benefits, the medical benefits under TRICARE Reserve Select, which is a low-cost medical program, the chance to learn a trade or get trained in a specific area, also just the leadership development, and frankly that the growth that you get from being part of an organization and making a difference in your community, I think is a huge selling point. And I think the more folks that we get out there that get a chance to see what a difference they as an individual and then as part of a team can make in their communities and for our nation, that it really does sell itself. I mean, you and I are great examples of opportunities that it has given us. We all started out as a private E1 or a lieutenant at some point in our career. And we stayed in because we felt like we were making a difference. And it's just phenomenal to be able to work with people like that are there, in many cases, balancing their civilian career, military career, and their families with what they're doing in their communities. And so it's a great value to our nation. And that's, I'd love to have more folks come out and see what we do.
Absolutely. Can you address any efforts to support diversity in the National Guard? And do you see that as one of your priorities?
And Frank, great point. And this is one of my highest priorities. And when we look at our National Guard, we're across the 50 states, 3 territories, and District of Columbia. And at the lowest level organization, we really reflect the diversity of the communities where we come. But prior to me assuming the job, I actually had them look at it at all rank structures. And what I found is we're very representative at the lower levels, but as we get higher in rank, what we found is we're not as diverse as our communities. And so my goal is to help identify where along the process of promotion or retention that we start to lose that diversity, so that we can address that and create those opportunities, because we want our organization at every level to represent the diversity of the communities from which we come. And it does take time. I mean, Fran, you and I have been around for a while. I mean, I'm on my 34th year of service. So what I'm trying to do is identify those lower levels and at every level so that we can build a diverse future leadership team for our organization.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. So really, I think that I know here in Connecticut that we are fairly representative across the board of the demographics of the state, with the exception of the senior leadership. And I know that we work hard every day at that, and it will take time, as you stated. So thanks you for that comment as well. In this moment, is there anything you need from the public, or is there any one message that you'd like to give the public on how they can support either the missions in the National Guard, or you mentioned the recruiting efforts as well?
Yeah. You know, Fran, I think the biggest thing is just to be aware of the National Guard in your communities and what they bring, the value they bring to the community. And the biggest thing is really to encourage folks to look into the National Guard, because we are looking for those folks that want to make a difference, that want to serve, but then also want to live in the communities where they serve. And for many people, they have a great civilian career, or they want to just stay there because they have family or close attachments. And the National Guard gives them the opportunity to serve their community and their country and live where they want to live. So that's one of the biggest things I would say. And also just the great support that we get. I can't tell you how many times that, folks will thank our National Guardsmen and women for their service in their communities, or really as they come back or get ready to go to deployments, or where they're helping out in a disaster, those wanting to help out in any way. It really does make a difference. It's those things that make a difference to us when we're away from home that just reminds us of the great things of America and the communities where we come from.
Sir, again, that's great comments. And I can't thank you enough for your time in joining us today. And I'd like to just ask you if you have any concluding thoughts that you'd like to leave with the audience.
No, Fran, I think we covered most of it here, but I just appreciate the opportunity to tell the National Guard story. And particularly in 2020, when you look at what we've done, what our soldiers and airmen, and particularly their families that support them, have been able to do, it's really indicative of one of the great programs in our country that I'm really glad to be part of. And every day I get to put on the uniform and represent all those great things that they do every single day. And I couldn't ask for anything better to do.
General Hokanson, Major General Evon, I can't thank both of you enough for being with us for Global Security Forum 2020. Thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership, General Hokanson. It's a difficult time in history, but with leaders like you on board, I know we have a bright future.
Thank you, Megan.